All right, perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. We are very excited to present on Mastering Copilot 365. I think this is a very relevant topic for everyone here today. My name is Eden, and I'm on the marketing team at Sunset Learning. And with me, I have Arturo, and he is a multi-cloud professional, IT and cybersecurity architect, and an authorized technical trainer. He's been focused on cloud technologies and sharing his experience as a consultant for multiple organizations in several different countries. So we are very excited to have him here today to present on this topic for us. With that, I will hand it over to Arturo to get started.
Thank you very much, Ian. Appreciate it. Hi again. I see some familiar names around the chat. Good to see you here, guys. Thank you for joining today. We have an hour ahead of us to talk about Copilot, an introduction to Copilot, actually, and a few surprises at the end of the session. And obviously, well, I think enough variety for you to end up the day thinking, hey, I know what Copilot is about now, because we have been hearing about AI a lot for the last few months, or maybe let's say a year. And some of you might be thinking, I know what it is. Some of you might be thinking, I have no idea what's happening with Copilot. So the idea today, the next 45 minutes is for you to actually see the capacity, some of the potential, the things that you can do, some real examples, a small demo I have for you. And after that, decide if that's something suitable for you and your organization to adopt. Okay, but before I start, it's always important to help you, right? To know who's sitting on this side of the camera. I know you can see me. I won't keep the camera running the whole time, I promise. You don't have to see my face the whole hour, but it's just for you to have a face behind the voice. But before I proceed to the actual content, I would like to introduce myself. As Eden had the commitment of introducing, my name is Arturo Hamilton. I'm a multi-certified trainer for multiple types of cloud. I'm a Microsoft, Amazon, Google authorized trainer. I'm also authorized to teach Splunk and some cybersecurity topics as CISP. I've been on the IT field for more than 17 years. I was working in a financial company for a long time. And well, I had a chance of experiencing a firsthand like business as usual that gave me a lot of background and knowledge about functional solutions in an organizational environment. Since 2016, I've been working as a full-time trainer, cybersecurity consultant, and that's what I've been doing for the last 8 years now. I've been working directly for Microsoft as an evangelist, a speaker, traveling around the world to teach 365, to teach Azure mainly. And now, since December of last year, I've been fully taking my time to train on artificial intelligence. It has become a pretty enormous global phenomena that has been taken over every single area in our work. So that's why it's so important these days, okay? And well, you can scan the QR code you have on screen. That's my LinkedIn. If you want to connect, you can add me there. I'm always there to help. Any questions, follow-ups, or anything you need related to this or any other topic, I'll be there to help, okay? So that's me, a little bit about who's talking on this side of the microphone. As I said, I'm gonna close my camera for the rest of the presentation, but I'll be back with you at the end of the session. So let me just go here. Sorry, I work with 5 monitors, so this looks like a monitor in central of Walmart. And there it is. I found it. So that being mentioned, my friends, let's get started with our Copilot session. As I was mentioning, this is an introduction session for you to understand what Copilot is about, right? Because it's something that we hear a lot. I bet that all of you have heard about artificial intelligence, GenAI, OpenAI, ChatGPT or Gemini or Gronk now that Mr. Musk is there doing their stuff. So, well, a lot of things happening simultaneously on this world of artificial intelligence. And one of the main tools that we have, it's Copilot. So the objective of today's session, the next 35, 40 minutes, it's to understand the foundations of Copilot, okay? So you know what are you able to do when using Copilot. So you can maybe disregard some of those theories you may have, right? Or those rumors you may have here about what can be done and what cannot be done. That's the objective today. And again, as Eden was mentioning, I have the chat running on one screen, the Q&A on another screen. So any questions you have, please let us know. I'll try to answer if it goes with the presentation. Otherwise, we'll take some time at the end also to take down your questions, okay? That being said, folks, first of all, what is it and how it works? because that's the main thing we need to know. When we talk about Copilot, we're talking about the Microsoft version tool of OpenAI. You all have heard about OpenAI, right? I'm going to show you a couple of examples in a minute, so don't worry. It's not a led by PowerPoint here. It's just for you to have a background. When we talk about OpenAI, we're talking about a technology based on artificial intelligence and machine learning to understand everything that is happening around the surroundings of the solution, let's say the internet or the users, and then use that knowledge to improve the way it interacts with an end user. That was the main purpose a few years ago when the first version came out. Now we have ChatGPT 4. That means that we have up to 4 years of training, and that has been embedded into Microsoft solutions. Microsoft acquired OpenAI, put it down on a suite of AI tools, and now we have an assistant that is completely based on artificial intelligence. A few technical concepts here to understand. We have something called the LLMs, the large language models, that is basically a lot of knowledge in one side, so Copilot can use it, okay? The idea of the LLM is to learn, to understand, to gather as much information as possible from everywhere it can. Everything you do on Microsoft 365, for example, uploading an image in OneDrive, sharing a link via SharePoint, sending an email via Outlook or directly via Outlook on the web, or starting a conversation in Teams will be part of that LLM. Important. We're not saying this information will be available and visible for everyone in Microsoft. No, what I'm saying is that this will teach Copilot how to interact with you. That's why it's called an assistant. Okay? Now, behind Copilot, we have the LLM that I was mentioning and something called the Microsoft Graph. Think about the Microsoft Graph as a neural network. Every single thing that happens on your environment will be one node in that network. The message you send, the email you share, the image you receive, or the conversation you were part of on a meeting of 3 hours duration long, all those things are actually part of the graph. The graph is used like a navigation map. If you go and ask Copilot, hey, Copilot, what was the meeting about? The last meeting we had yesterday, what was that about? It will use that navigation graphic, the graph, to actually go and say, okay, who was part of the meeting? These users. What files were shared during the meeting? These files. It will start pulling all that information to say, hey, Arturo, this is what the meeting was about. 3-4 lines of a summary. So that's why this type of training, folks, and I mean artificial intelligence, machine learning training, it's part of the power or the backend power of our Copilot 365. You have text, you have summaries, you have recommendations, you have a lot of things coming up from this knowledge. What makes Copilot different from all the other solutions? You might be thinking, hey, I've seen a lot of artificial intelligence things happening these days, right? You can just go to Google for AI, and you'll have 20, 30, 50 different options to play around with AI, with Gen AI, generative AI. The difference made by Copilot here is that it's completely focused on productivity, on improving the way you work, improving the way we relate to the business as usual. It has been proved, that's not a number we have here, but it's important you know, that business as usual users who have adopted Copilot in the last 3 months have reduced their workloads up to 5 hours per week, an average of an hour per day. That doesn't mean that you have a free hour, right? That means that you can actually optimize what you do on that hour. Instead of writing down a complete email or summarizing a topic or running through a lot of files to create a reference, Copilot will do that for you in a matter of seconds. So that's what makes it unique. That's what makes it different from the other options of artificial intelligence in the market. Be aware of me not saying here that it's better or worse than others because of this or that. No, what I'm saying is that it's the only product right now in a public available version that can be used for business as usual. I'm going to show you Copilot on the second half of this lesson, of this hour we have. So you see that thing in action. You see some of the capacities and things that can be done. But before I go forward into that part, a couple of other things we need to understand. The toolset. What Copilot has to offer to you. You may have used your Windows 10, Windows 11 Copilot, right? You may have gone and say, okay, just ask whatever question you have in mind and see what adds. Have you ever assumed that you could use that power to actually write an email or to create a summary of not only a meeting, but all the related topics to an actual project? Did you ever imagine that you could ask Copilot using PowerPoint Copilot to create a presentation with as many slides as you need based on the topic that you want? Even better, for those of you who are into development, GitHub Copilot, have you ever imagined that you could ask Copilot to write a complete code to do something you have in mind? Like, hey, can you print a hello world using this specific language? These are the types of things we have. Copilot is based on a human understanding language. That means that you can communicate as a human. You don't need to add any complex codes or any weird type of expression like a regular expression or something. No, Copilot understands a human language. It is important to understand us as the end users that what we do, what we want has to be quite specific. For example, take a look on the one on the middle of this screen, reports and research. What if you have 25 pages of a post-mortem report about a project? You could go through the whole document, right? You can ask Copilot, hey, just give me a summary. Why am I mentioning this of the human language? Because we need to start thinking and changing the way we think to be explicit about what we want. Just asking for a summary or an analysis might be understood by Copilot like, hey, he just want me to take the highlights. What if you wanted the highlights plus the actual users he mentioned or who said something, right? What if you wanted a specific date, a range of dates or a specific time span? There is another free webinar taking place in the future that Eden will talk about at the end of this session that is all about you optimizing that way of communication. I am bringing that here on this specific slide because when we work with Copilot, the way we interact and the way we actually get the information will be completely based on the way you communicate. Okay? Think about this as a human conversation. That's the magic power of Copilot. The capacity it has to actually interact like a human assistant, actually. That's the thing. A couple of other things we can do here, for example, we can select, again, a complete project that spans across OneDrive, SharePoint, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, and a lot of Teams meetings, a lot of meetings. We know everybody loves meetings. So instead of just summarizing one of each, you can reference them all by a project name. Let's call this Red Alert project. Copilot, give me all the information you have about Red Alert. It will go and look through the graphic. Remember the graph, the one that I mentioned that looked like a map? Well, it will use all those specific points in time and in your service to say all these things are actually related to the project you're asking, the Red Alert project. And you'll be able to start checking and assigning tasks. You'll be able to see how the other users are working on that project to create maybe a delegated assignation of responsibilities. You'll be able to retrieve information to give support to someone requesting. Another tool we have here that I don't have a way to show you that because that's a different type of subscription. I'll talk about that in a minute, but you can also use Copilot for those of you into sales. I know some of you might be into sales to reduce the needs of your customer using a tool called, I forgot the name. I'll remember the name. I'll bring it to you. It's a new tool Microsoft released a couple of months ago in a full preview where you can register your customer tenants, your Microsoft 365 Azure tenants, and use Copilot to suggest what that user could actually get as a benefit. Licenses, products, extensions, new versions, trials, new users, configurations, etc. Microsoft Lighthouse. That's the name of the tool I was mentioning. I'm just bringing some tools here for you to know what the capacity is. I'm going to share with you a few links also that you can use to practice yourself and get some more hands-on knowledge after this webinar, but the idea is that you get the big picture, right? Another thing that we use a lot Copilot for, it's the actual communication. I think that all those of you who answer yes, I've used Copilot on the initial couple of questions we had, have used Copilot to redact something, right? To phrase something. I'm gonna bring a little bit of a story here. I have I have a team of scheduling and calendar managers to take care of the classes and webinars and things taking place. And one of them is quite shy. she's a master using Excel and actually navigating through the possibilities of assigning new tasks, but she has a complicated time when she has to be the one who answers the emails. Since she started using Copilot, she has improved a lot the way she communicates. I'm not saying that it's like changing the way she performs. No, what I'm saying is it's a tool that she can use now to say, okay, redact an email saying, yes, I can take care of this class on this date with this rate. And Copilot will automatically look like, hey, this is what you can do. That's an example. You can translate in real time. I don't know if you saw in the introduction of my slide when I was presenting myself. I also have like a hobby and a second-hand job, if you will. I work for I have my own comic book shop and I work for a couple of comic artists, and I've been taking care of their translations. They don't speak English and they have to draw a script given by the writer. So using Copilot, I've been reducing the time of translating 40 pages to 10 minutes and then just double checking the grammar. Another real example. You will say, yes, we have had translators since the beginning of the internet. We have, yes. But the way it feels, your communication, the way you write or you translate, it's actually teaching Copilot how you will do it. It's not impersonal anymore. That's another thing that we can use as a collaboration, as a tool set. And as I was mentioning, we can actually improve a lot of the time that we do spend on mechanical tasks, redacting, reducing, summarizing, reading. All those things that you might say, hey, it's part of my business as usual, won't go anywhere. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you won't have to do this. I'm saying that you'll improve the way you do it. If you have to go through, let's say that you have 3-4 different time zones working, and the guys in Europe and the folks in Asia decided to have a long conversation overnight via email about the new project. You woke up 9 a.m. and you see 50 emails of the same topic. You can use Copilot to just click summarize and get a summary with all the highlights of those 50 emails in 3 minutes. You don't actually have to go through it. Again, I'm saying that you can improve. You won't get rid of it, okay? That's not what Copilot does. It's not a magic genie that will take that work away from you. No, it will help you to do it better and faster. That's the idea. That's what we have here. Another thing that Copilot does, and we're almost done here with the introduction, it's the actual access to the data. We don't see the data. You don't see, visually speaking, that graphic I was mentioning. You don't click here, here, and there, and you're capable of navigating. No, that's done by Copilot. But once you understand that capacity, once you understand that you will have an end result visibility of the related topics and objects, will be easier for you to take decisions. How many times you have sent an email or you have answered a message in Teams or you have attended a meeting thinking that something was sent, but it wasn't, or the other way, thinking that you didn't receive what you wanted, but it was there on the email, lost in between hundreds of communications, right? How many times you have to go through something like, hey, sorry, I didn't see the email, sorry, or I thought that you have sent it. Well, with Copilot, you have that option. Like, okay, before my meeting, give me a summary. Oh, I see a couple of emails here related to the discussion we have next. I should take a look at them, right? So be prepared. That's the kind of thing you can do. Access to the data. I'm not saying that it will give you a full grid table with all the related objects, but you'll be able to narrow down what's relevant for you in the next step you want to take. That's another part of the toolsets. And obviously, well, something that has been a part of a pretty heated discussion in the world these days, it's the creativity. We're not going to get into that discussion of the moral dilemma of using or not artificial intelligence to create stuff, but at least we know that whatever you have in mind can be translated by Copilot into doing something that will be meaningful and relevant. Again, as I said, the writer's block. If I don't know how to create a proper email to ask for something, I can use some recommendations. If I know that I have an idea of a new project, but I don't know exactly how to express it or what things could I get from it, you can ask Copilot to complement the way you work to actually build something together. Again, I don't want to go into a discussion of the moral dilemma of doing this by using information available on the internet, but it's what it is. It's what we have right now, and it's available at the tip of your hand. That's the idea of using this for another kind of thing. And one of the highlights here is that you actually reduce the time spent on services. You reduce the time like juggling around different possibilities of something you might be thinking when reading, when redacting, when attending a meeting, when doing whatever you do on your business as usual using Microsoft 365, and just focus on what's important. As I said, up to 5 hours of reduced occupancy for regular Copilot users. And we're just starting. Spoiler ahead, we have Copilot for security coming up. Actually, it came up last week. It's available now on public release. You can use now that to track down security, governance, information protection. So think about all the things that we'll be able to reduce to automated self-service tasks to actually focus on something else. Again, I'm not saying that you will have to see or figure out what you do with that hour, but it's something that we can do. But I think that's enough chit chat here of the introduction to Copilot. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm going to show you here. Let me see, where am I? Is this one? Yes. So when I created this webinar a few months ago, Copilot was on a closed beta version. It wasn't fully available for the public. So back then I took a couple of screenshots. I'm not gonna take a time on the screenshots. I'm just gonna move forward because I'm gonna show you this in action. Okay, so what I want to show you is this, the actual Copilot. So first of all, you might be thinking, okay, you have mentioned a lot of things about Copilot, but how do I get Copilot, right? That will be the first thing. There are two different versions of Copilot that we can use, okay? We have the, let me just zoom in a little because it might be too small. I think that should be good. We have Copilot for Business that you can acquire by using an enterprise or a business subscription of Microsoft 365. Important, take a note of this. It's $30 or $30 a month per user, and you have to go for a commitment of 12 months as minimum. That means that you'll have a total cost of $360 per user per year. That's the price right now. It has been like that for the last 2 months. It's a new release, okay? This might change. There might be some free trials coming up. There might be some changes on the ahead commitments, yes. But right now, it's not there yet. Okay, so that's important. That's the paid edition. We have Bing Copilot. If I go here and I go to Bing Copilot, you all can access this one. Let me just open this. Let me see why it's using the Spanish version. I want to use the US version. There. You can all use this one. What's the difference between this and the 365? The 365 uses the graphic that I was mentioning to actually go through all the information that you'll have to available to reduce or to do whatever you want to do. The Copilot, the free Copilot, bing.com/Copilot, is a version that you'll have if you want, with the possibility of chatting, discussing, generating, but with the internet knowledge, like ChatGPT. It will use internet global knowledge to actually give you that access to the information you want. So I can click here on Copilot, for example. You see, I have the chat, I have the designer, I have, let's say the designer here, and you can see, create some images. If I select the first one, I just accept this, and there it is. You have 3 options when you use Copilot for free editions. You have the creative version that usually works better when you need to impulse the reduction to the next creative level, let's say with some flourishes and some nice and fancy words that you will usually see on a professionally redacted text. You can go to balance that will still be creative, but will be more focused on the result that you're asking, or you can be precise. Examples. I want to write a poem about my webinar. I will go for creative, right? Right. 4 lines poem about a webinar regarding Copilot. There. If I use that creative part, you can see, and we got a poem now. If you do something like this, it actually uses that tempo of a creative way of thinking. Now, If I go too precise, what I will get will be maybe the same result in this case, maybe a similar result, maybe different, but it won't have that flexibility of looking through examples of creativity for a poem. When will you use, for example, the precise one? When you have a specific question. Now, I can go back here and say, hey, I need you to be precise now. There again. I'm using an incognito. That's why it changes to a different location. If I go to precise, what is the definition of poetry? I could ask Copilot to give me a poetical, creative definition of poetry, right? That will be interesting. But again, what I'm trying to say here, folks, is that we can use this free edition, all of you, at any moment to start this interaction with Copilot. Okay, you can see it's a precise definition of everything that means or related to poetry. Now, this is the front end used by Microsoft to offer you access to Copilot. Remember that this on the back sits on ChatGPT. Okay, OpenAI tools based on ChatGPT. So I just want you to know that, because you might be thinking, okay, what's the difference? I'll show you here in a second. I can go here and say OpenAI. This is the engine. This is the tool behind Copilot. I need to create an account here. There is a free edition and a paid edition. I have the free one. It's not that I'm cheap, but I have a lot of Copilots here. So let me go here. And it works exactly the same. ChatGPT, that is the chat that we're using here, or we can use the API model to see what's actually been done on a business level. This is the backend, okay? You see, I can log in. Again, ask me to log in. There I am. We're going to have an OpenAI free webinar too, taking place in May. Okay, so I'll be glad to see you around here. I'll talk about this in the Azure version of it, so it's more technical, but it's also a good option to learn. So you can see the last thing I was trying to do is, okay, suggest me a Flutter class for Google. It gave me a complete outline. I mean, it's in Spanish, right? But can you translate this? I always say please, just in case they take over the world. Okay, remember, I was polite to them. So you see, it's just translating. We're back. That's the idea of GPT, okay? This is the same type of tool with the difference that this is the core engine that you can use for your own solutions, applications. You can build over this to have your own chat, or you can use the Copilot version for free. This is the free edition. This is the public accessible edition for all of you. But you might be thinking, hey, Arturo, you have been talking about the benefits for the last 30 minutes, and the only things we're seeing here, it's poetry. Yes. Now, the other version of Copilot, the one I was mentioning, has a price, $30. It's actually in here, Microsoft 365. You need a license. The license has to have Copilot acquired. If you don't know how to do that, let me show you here. Let me just give you a quick demo. I think that might be useful. Check this out. So if I go to my portal, this is my real functional working portal, okay? Here, you can say have my Copilot available. In here, you can see how many licenses you have here and some recommendations of adoption for Copilot. Some updates, you can get more licenses here. You can assign the licenses to the users. Again, you can see, let me show you, here's the UCI was online about the cost and the things we have. I have these three. I can buy more if I need to. I can assign this license to someone else and manage my subscription right from here. This is a management or a power admin user responsibility. You might not have to deal with this. You might get your license as part of the benefits or as part of your tools for business as usual, right? In that case, what you see is this. You can see this is called Copilot User. It's one of the 3 licenses I have on this tenant. In here, I have the full power of Copilot. Check the difference. I can go here, for example, into Word. Here, I can create a new document. There. And you will be thinking, okay, what am I supposed to do here? Take a look on the right, on the top right, here. Every time you open a file, a document, a conversation, a meeting, an email, in Microsoft 365, if you have the license assigned, you'll start seeing this, the Copilot icon. I'll click on it for Word, and I'll have some recommendations, or I can start asking information. You might think this looks exactly the same as what we were doing on the public one. The difference is that this one has a graphic on the back end. Remember the network, the map? Well, in order to actually bring that information to the front if needed. So what can I try? Like, okay, I need an essay about the benefits of Copilot from a business as usual perspective of a standard power user. If I had documents, let's say a book, an ebook, a presentation or something that actually has this information, it will use that information here on my Microsoft 365 to create that specific draft or that essay. You can see it takes more time, you see? It's actually slower. You know why? Because it's using the graph to navigate through my information to see if there is something that could be useful for my request. On contrary of the public Copilot using the internet knowledge, this one is giving me this option. I can say, yeah, it looks good, it doesn't look good. Should I add it? Yeah, I can actually copy it and I can put it here. And if I start adding a lot of things here, I could use Copilot to then summarize or check this out. I have here, one of my trainers was using this, how to create an ice cream in Spanish. Okay, so, okay. Can you please translate this to English? That should be a question mark, but I missed the key. It should work. There goes. It will get something and will give me the translation of how to create or how to make homemade ice cream, right? There it is. To make chocolate ice cream, the following steps in machinery will be recommended. And if you speak Spanish and English, you'll see the translation is precise. It's actually quite accurate. So similar to that one, Edward, the difference is that this one uses the code engine of OpenAI from Azure and the Azure Graphic. And the Google Notebook, what it does, that one uses just Gemini frontend. So this one is powered up by Azure. The notebook is isolated to the Google documentation. The result looks similar, okay? But in a large scale or a big scenario, you'll have all the power of Azure along with databases and storage and virtual machines and computing. That's the main difference. But the end result for an end user, it will be quite similar. Okay, this one, the one we have on screen. Thanks for the question. Thanks to you, Edward. So you can see Copilot in action here in Word, right? Let's see. Now, what if we go, for example, to PowerPoint? This is amazing because you can see someone decided to make ice cream. Here it is. How to make ice cream using the Word document. This is all in Spanish, right? So I can actually go here. Let me just open it. And I can create a new presentation from a file. You see the documents? These are the same we were using. You can see here, Fridge Fairy Tale. From that specific document, create me a presentation. This is what I was saying. The graphic or the Microsoft Graph is actually trying to, not trying, it's actually making the information available, reachable to you to be used in case you need it. So you can see, create a new presentation will replace the one I have. Okay, that's because I opened a pre-existing presentation. You can see it's finding the file. So that's what I was mentioning. It might look slower. It is slower because it's using the graphic, but it doesn't mean that that it's actually slower because it's cheaper or because it's not as powerful as a public one. No. It's because the way it manages the backend information. Okay, so you can see it got the highlights of that specific document, and now it's building slides. Okay, so let's wait here just a minute. There it goes. While we wait, sorry, I saw the question, Daniel. Well, Microsoft state that the hallucination that might take place in Copilot will be useful for the same learning process, okay? One of the benefits of Copilot that we have based on the Azure OpenAI service is that we can train the model and disregard or include the hallucinations if we want to be part of the learning model, of the language learning model. By default, what it does is that if you keep giving feedback, you will see always the feedback option. If it starts hallucinating, the hallucination, folks, for those of you who doesn't know, it's actually when it starts rambling around and creating some ghost information that is not related to the topic, you can actually feedback Copilot and we'll store it on the graph. But that's still a manual process. There are updates coming up in OpenAI engine in Azure in the next maybe 6 months that will have a preview training model to handle automatically all these hallucinations. But right now, we have to do it like that. Okay, Dan? I hope that answers the question. So that's another thing that we can do. So you can see here, we have now our agenda running, right? There, the fridge realization, the surprise. You can even see it include images. In case you're wondering, my friends, these images are copyright free, so you don't have to worry. You can use this. I mean, obviously, you'll have to be more specific. I'm gonna give you an example of something that happens when you are not explicit about your request. If I go here and say, hey, I have 11 slides. Can you please add 5 more slides? There. I'm asking this presentation maker to give you 5 more slides, right? That sounds like a simple instruction, right? Like a simple request prompt. That's why we have a free webinar about prompting and optimizing the way you prompt, because the key of your success is always the way you do it. So check this out. I have my 5 slides. In my mind, I was thinking 5 more slides with content, extend the content through 5 more slides. But again, at the end of the day, we're talking with a machine, with a computer. We need to be explicit about what we want. If I had added, give me 5 slides with more content without duplicating, something different will have happened here. Okay, so be careful. I was running a class a couple of months ago in Mexico City, the first OpenAI webinar we had in Mexico. And we started like playing around with ChatGPT and OpenAI. And one of the attendees said, why don't you ask Copilot to answer like if it was Clint Eastwood? Yeah, let's do it. We forgot to disregard that request. And the next, I don't know, 30 interactions sounded like Clint Eastwood. Trust me, it was hilarious. So what I'm saying here is that if you're not explicit, if you don't actually go and say, hey, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that, add this and don't add that, if you're not that, if you don't have that level of explicitity on your request, it will work exactly the way it wanted. So one of the highlights in here on this specific example we just saw is iterate, 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 try, and try, do it again, do it again, do it again, until you understand how it reacts and Copilot understands the way that a specific licensed user communicates. Trust me, it happens. If you start doing that, for example, I said I used to translate some scripts. It knows the types of words I translate based on the slang of a comic book. So at the beginning, it used a standard translation. Now it knows the type of words that I will use if I was the one translating. So now my scripts are optimized for translation. So it learns. That's the part of the machine learning and the LLM. Okay, so it's important. It's an important thing we have here. What else we mentioned here, folks? Let me show you. Let me see if I have in Outlook anything we can use. This is a demo license we use. You can see here. We have a VPN mythic. You see? You see on the top, summary by Copilot. Let me see if I have something. Copilot 2, VPN mything, a review. You can see different types of projects. I have a mything here for the Philadelphia project. And let's go back here. So I want the summary of this one. If I had 5 emails, if I have 100 emails on this specific trail, it will give them all to me. This is not actually much of a change, right? Because we only have like 3-4 lines of text. But in a real case scenario where you have hundreds, if not thousands of lines on different emails, this will be useful. You can even refer to the document you're seeing and say, hey, do something about it. Like summarize the content plus give me the details relevant for that specific document attached on the first one, the first email. So again, this is just a encapsulated, isolated example that I have for you to see. But in a real case scenario, this will be much, much powerful than what you see here, okay? Just want you to see the option you have as soon as you get into your emails, okay? So you go here and you always have the summary option to start with. On contrary of the other apps, like you saw on Word and PowerPoint, you had here the Copilot on the top right. Here, it's always on the top of the emails, okay? And then the most powerful part of Copilot for workloads and optimization, my friends, it's the usage of Teams. Some of you might be using Teams already with Copilot. There is a desktop version with Copilot. It's the latest stable version. Important, and this is a known issue reported by Microsoft, sometimes your version might get an update, transparent back update, and you might actually lose Copilot. Not lose Copilot, you won't see the button. You have to refresh. That's a known issue that Microsoft is addressing. The workaround recommendation right now today is to always try to use Teams for web if we're gonna pull Copilot to work along our side. Okay, so here we are. I can switch here. Check this out. And it's gonna switch the online one. If it asks me to open my Teams version on premises, that's when you have to be sure about what version you're using. Okay, so you can see top left, even with color control to the others, Copilot. This is Copilot for Teams. What's the difference? We're wrapping up here the demo and we'll move forward. Copilot for Microsoft 365 in Teams, this one that I have here, it's actually a summary of all the tools that we have mentioned. Prepare me for the meeting. Show me all the related files. Help me write something, an email, a message, a conversation. How to? Request for a proposal. Don't miss out, summarize the meeting, and so many other stuff that we have on the prompting, okay? This is like the central control station of Copilot for 365. This one, along with this one, will centralize the capacity you have. It's in Teams because Teams is a productivity tool by default, right? That's why we have it there, but it's the same. Okay, you can see it's the same we have in here. So again, this is the main control. In Teams, we have the Copilot for Teams. Top right again, you can see here, this is our meeting. Top right, Copilot. And I can ask here, you can see info, recap. You can see by default, I have an option at the bottom that says recap. If this meeting have been running for days or it's a recurring meeting for a couple of weeks or a month, it will recap everything, okay? Everything related to the name that you have. So I'll hit on recap. And based on the translation of our discussion, plus the emails, the transcript, the messages, everything, it will create that recap. This transcript is what we were saying during the meeting. Okay, these were a couple of my trainers and myself here, just like reading from a script, pretty bad script, by the way. So we could have an actual discussion. So using this transcript of an actual voice to text, it gave me this chat, and then, well, I stop it from recapping, so it will do it again. It will use the script plus everything else to give me that summary of what happened during the meeting. Personally speaking, folks, the one that I've used the most besides the redaction is this one, because of the amount of time we might spend on a meeting. Check that out. I don't have to watch the 4 minutes or the 4 hours or whatever duration the meeting had. I can actually see here the stuff that I was using. Arturo will lead the project here. The client, Jeff, will prepare a survey. David will actually coordinate the analysis. Then we have some brainstorming, and the project management will be done by David. This is what we discussed on those 4 minutes of speak or talk. So this is the Copilot for Teams. Again, this is just an introduction to Copilot, folks. I would like to run the whole 4-8 hour session with exercises and stuff, but this is for you to get to know what Copilot is capable of, okay? I assume you have to ask the person you're on chat with if you can have Copilot run due to privacy concerns. Yes, as I was mentioning then, there is this, the new release of Copilot Security, or Security for Copilot, that includes the Privacy of Information Act, and it follows the 230 something personal information and private information definitions of Microsoft. So the moment someone joins the meeting, it prompts that, hey, Copilot will get you the transcript. That's it. And then you can actually, I don't have that license here yet, and it's not fully released. It came out last week, but you can use the private information definitions to show them on screen. And whenever anyone on the meeting refers to one of those, like an email, like an address, like a phone number, like a bank account, like a AVA routing number, whatever that is considered private, will automatically label that as private. And if your configuration within your organization blocks or masks those out, Copilot will know how to do that and will automatically take them out. Like, okay, David mentioned something about an address that, based on this definition of security you have in your company, cannot be shown. All that can be presented to the people outside of your organization. You can also configure Copilot with the security engine to only allow the transcripts or the usage of information if the users have Copilot or the users are within the organization. That's another option. You can leave Copilot to work fully at its whole capacity on your organization, and then outside, for invites outside of it, you can just use a disclaimer or don't use it at all. Okay, so yes, you can, Donna. You can actually write down a small script, and then you can use some images, and you can pull that to have a fact video. So can you, hope that answered the question, Dan. Could you please give me a short how to script for a video about using Copilot? You use this, then the file you generate, Donna, will be sent, maybe if you want, to Word to create the full script version, then maybe to PowerPoint to create a presentation. Then you can pull screenshots if you already have them. There you have the whole script, and then you just have to hit record. If you want to record yourself, if you want to use a video, the video editing tool is an OpenAI beta version. It's not available yet. It will be there in a few months. Okay, but this is like a basic way of doing what you wanted. Hope this answers the question. So any other questions you have, please let me know, folks. We're gonna go back here just to wrap up. We have a few more minutes left, but I want to show you a couple of use cases in the real world. As you saw, the last 20, 30 minutes, we went through all the things that can be done by Copilot. So planning, managing, retrieving information, analysis of risk, security and penetration test, communications, all that can be done. As we saw, we can create content. We just saw the last example there that Donna asked by creating a script for a video. We could specify how long, who will be speaking, how many voices, how many actors, whatever you want, and we'll give it to you. We can create communication. We can actually use Copilot, for example, to build a communication banner and then put it on Viva, that it's the new version of Yammer, or you can send it over via Teams or using any third party app that you may use to communicate, like, I don't know, like Skype or WhatsApp or whatever you use. The idea here is that Copilot can actually integrate to optimize the workflows. Okay, as you saw, we can create solution to some issues that otherwise might take a while. It took me 1 minute to summarize a meeting. So you saw that I can actually optimize that time, as I was mentioning, and even though it was quite a reduced example. So the idea here, folks, it's to put it in all the different resources that we have. And that brings me here, before I wrap up, to a link that I want to share that is part also of a wrap-up slide that Eden will share with us. But Microsoft has for you a free documentation you can use. Let me see where it is, because I have two here. I think it's this one. No, I'll look for it here. Here it is. Microsoft has for us this one. It's a free class, okay? And this is part of the free offerings we have here and some of the next steps. So I don't know, Eden, would you like to take these couple of slides, and then I'll be back to explain that small link?
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really cool to see all those demos. So thank you for including that in your presentation. We do have a couple promotions for you. This one is a Copilot workshop where we dive a little bit more into Copilot and how to use it for your within your organization. And our promotion right now is you can send up to 50 people from your organization to attend this workshop for $1,500. And normally It's priced at a few hundred per person, so this is a great deal. And this does include demos. So contact us if you want to inquire about this and learn more about what is included in the workshop. You can email us at info@sunsetlearning.com to inquire about that. I'll put that in the chat for you. And then next slide, please.
There. No, it got stuck. Sorry. There.
Perfect. So going along with this training, we have a couple recommended next steps, next trainings for you. So there's a couple of classes listed right here. That would be a good follow-up for from this webinar. And Arturo, do you want to talk a little bit more about what each of these classes, how they relate?
Yeah, sure. So the first one is the one I wanted to show. There is a free reduced self-study version that you can maybe go through and see the content that it has, but there is a full training day that is all about you using Copilot during the 8 hours. It's a workshop. It's more like a hackathon / workshop than an actual class, the MS 4004, and you get to cover all this. Let me show you here. That's the one I wanted to show. So this is the class, and you have here all the exercises that I've been showing, like how to summarize, how to redact, how to do all that stuff. You'll be able to take part of this on a real practice scenario for an 8 hours long class. That's the first one, and it's the first official class of Copilot released by Microsoft. The second one we have is the Azure AI Fundamentals. That's the introduction to artificial intelligence from the Azure perspective. Folks, this is different. What we saw was Microsoft 365 productivity. Azure is a complete different story. We have another free webinar taking place about OpenAI and Azure in the future. So if you want to join, we'll be here again. But the AI fundamentals is for you to understand all the capacity of artificial intelligence from Microsoft, not only Copilot. It includes OpenAI, facial recognition, image recognition, log recognition, human sentiment recognition, text-to-speech, speech-to-text, real-time translation. So it's an amazing tool. So the fundamentals is a one-day class that will give you all those concepts and foundations. And then the full class to learn artificial intelligence from Azure, it's the AI 102. That's a 4 days training where you will have exercises, laboratories, 8 hours each, 4 days. So it's a pretty long and, sorry, there's a car passing by. A pretty complex and advanced class for you to know how to create your own bots, do your own applications, how to use all the power tools of AI, not only Copilot. So these are the 3 basic related classes to this session.
Yeah, and you can find all of these on our website. All of the dates on our website are guaranteed to run, so there's no chance of us canceling last minute on you. And that middle one, the AI fundamentals class, is actually a free class that we offer, and our next date is coming up in the middle of May. So I'll put the link in the chat for that webinar, as well as the other 2 that Arturo is going to be presenting on May 1st and May 10th. So you can use that link that I just put in the chat to sign up for those. I think that's all we have for you. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, everyone. Any questions you have, please let us know. Otherwise, thank you for joining. I hope to see you again on May the 1st or May the 16th. I think we have the OpenAI. So if you want to learn how to prompt, don't miss the next one because it's important you know how to talk to Copilot. So that's the next one we have, and see you the next time, folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.